The frog who gave birth through her mouth. Long ago, before the forest was tamed, before the rivers were named, and before man thought he knew everything, there was a sacred forest called Ngoma Woods. It was a place where animals gathered not just to survive, but to share wisdom. And in the heart of this forest lived a small, quiet creature. A frog named Mama Ndem. But Mama Ndem was no ordinary frog. While others laid their eggs in the water, Mama Ndem did something strange, unbelievable to some. She gave birth through her mouth. The day the other animals saw it, they were stunned. The eagle blinked twice. The monkey rubbed his eyes. The tortoise stopped mid-step, and that alone was a miracle. They asked, "How can a mother bring forth life from her mouth?" Mama Ndem only smiled and said, "When the world doesn't understand you, it is still learning." You see, long ago, she had met the spirit of life in a dream. And the spirit had whispered, "You are chosen. You will carry your children not in water, but within yourself. And when the time comes, your mouth will speak not just stories, but life itself." So Mama Ndem swallowed her eggs, gently, lovingly. She kept them safe in her belly. And when the time came, she opened her mouth, and tiny, wriggling babies leapt into the world, strong, safe, and full of life. From that day, the animals called her not just mother, but story keeper. Because if life could come from her mouth, then surely, so could stories that gave life to the heart. And so, under the great baobab tree, Mama Ndem shared her stories with the young and the old. Stories of love, patience, and mystery. But one day, a traveler arrived from a faraway land. He laughed when he heard the tale. A frog, giving birth from her mouth. Huh! What foolishness! The animals grew angry. But Mama Ndem only smiled. "Some things you believe when you see," she said. "And others, when you feel." So the traveler waited. He watched. And one evening, as the stars blinked above Ngoma Woods, he saw it. Mama Ndem, still and calm, opened her mouth, and out came her young. The traveler fell to his knees. "Today, I have learned. The world is full of things we do not understand. And sometimes, even a small mouth can carry great life. So if you ever wander into a forest and hear stories that sound strange, do not laugh. Do not turn away. Because sometimes, the greatest truth hides in the quietest mouth. And that is the story of Mama Ndem, the frog who gave birth through her mouth. But this is not where her story ends. For many seasons after the traveler's visit, Mama Ndem's life in Ngoma Woods continued, and with it, the forest seemed to grow richer. Animals said the trees leaned in to listen when she spoke. They swore the rivers slowed their current when she told a story, as though even water could not resist her voice. Mama Ndem herself was small, no bigger than a cord leaf, but there was something in her gaze, an old, deep knowing that made the proudest creatures pause. Even the leopard, king of the shadows, would settle nearby when she began to speak. but wisdom often draws both friends and danger. One season, the rains came late. The ground cracked. Streams that once danced freely shrank to thin silver lines. Thirst spread through Ngoma woods. Animals came to Mama Ndem, their voices heavy with worry. "Story keeper," they said, "your tales feed our hearts, but water feeds our bodies. What can we do?" Mama Ndem closed her eyes and thought of the spirit of life. That night, she dreamed again. The spirit appeared, this time not in gentle light, but in the deep shadows of drought. It spoke. "There is water still, but it is hidden. To find it, you must give something greater than yourself." When she awoke, Mama Ndem knew what she had to do. She hopped through the brittle grass until she reached the great baobab tree. She called the animals together and told them, "Follow me, but be ready to give." They followed, the tortoise, the eagle, the monkey, even the traveler who had stayed behind to learn her ways. They journeyed for 2 days without food, their paws and claws scratching the dry earth. Finally, they reached an ancient mound, cracked and pale. Mama Ndem hopped to the center and began to hum, a deep, resonant sound no one had heard before. She opened her mouth, not to give birth, but to release something older than her children, a breath of life, warm and thick with spirit. The ground trembled. The mound split open. And from the earth gushed a hidden spring, cool and clear. The animals drank until they could drink no more. The forest sighed, leaves shaking as the water spread. But Mama Ndem lay still. Her voice was gone. The great hum had taken it. For months after, she could not speak. And yet, her silence carried weight. Animals would gather around her in the evenings, not for words, but for presence. For they had learned that sometimes, the keeper of stories need not speak to teach. Seasons turned. Her voice eventually returned, softer, but deeper, as though the waters themselves now flowed through it. And with her new voice came new stories, ones of sacrifice, hidden springs, and the truth that even the smallest creatures can call forth rivers. Years later, the traveler left Ngoma woods. He returned to his own land, carrying with him not gold, not rare fruits, but the memory of a frog whose mouth brought forth both life and water. In his village, he told the story. At first, they laughed. But some listened. And those who listened began to look differently at the world, at frogs, at rivers, at quiet things. In time, the story spread beyond even his land. It crossed deserts, climbed mountains, sailed over seas. And somewhere, in places far from Ngoma woods, children sat wide-eyed as someone began. Long ago, before the forest was tamed. And so, Mama Ndem's gift, strange, unbelievable, and true, lived on. Even today, in the rustle of leaves or the hush of a river at dusk, you might hear an echo of her voice. Not loud, not seeking your attention, but there, waiting. Because the quietest truths never die. And perhaps, if you are very still, you will understand why some mouths do more than speak, they give life itself.